talk a little bit about that conflict and how it leads to these larger conversations.
The quantum pioneers just realized that the fundamental level of reality is just a mess from our rational perspective, because it's incoherent, it's illogical, it just makes no sense. There's so many quantum experiments which just don't work. And this, I would have imagined, would have started to challenge this ingrained belief that, look, at the end of the day, we can understand reality and fundamentally it's made of tangible stuff, which no, it isn't. And these experiments in quantum mechanics haven't gotten any better. And now there's even things like contextuality, where these quantum information people are saying it somehow makes no sense to say that elementary particles have certain properties before you measure them. It's like the measurement, you put it on them, and this makes no sense at all. So that's 100 years ago, and we didn't really recalibrate because of, in my view, this problem that a lot of physicists just suck at philosophy, or they think philosophy is irrelevant and just a waste of time. So there weren't really very mature conversations on the ontology, meaning the basic layer of reality, what it is. And it was always assumed, no, it has to be commonsensical and rational because, for 300 years, this worked really well. So why should it stop now? But somehow it did stop. And the mess got even worse, because now with the James Webb telescope, we've figured out that there's so many crises in cosmology that this standard cosmological framework is actually not correct. A lot of it got upended, and we just realized that there's so many fundamental enigmas, problems, puzzles in physics that now is the time has come where people are like, hey, maybe we went down a wrong road at one point, and we need to reevaluate where we're going. And this reevaluation has to happen at a metaphysical level, because it's not the equations, it's not the physics that works. We understand it, we can compute it. That's not the issue. The issue is what is going on? What does it mean? And here is where it seems to be sort of the pendulum swinging back, where scientists are asking themselves, what the hell am I doing? What does this mean? What is the existential implication of this stuff that I'm working on? And that seems to be something that we're seeing now, that people are opening up to, sort of recalibrating their metaphysical assumptions, which then also affects consciousness, because we still don't have a definition of what consciousness is. And the hard problem of consciousness is still a thing. How does non-conscious stuff produce this inner perspective? We don't know. Big problem. And maybe if we recontextualize, as an example, by claiming that consciousness is fundamental, things change and you get a different perspective. And okay, you get different problems, but you get some solutions to the problems which were standing for a while. So it's exciting.
What does it mean for people who don't have experience, let's say, in physics or in metaphysics? What does it mean to say that consciousness is fundamental?
So that's a bit of a problem, because we always expect that we should understand stuff rationally. So the only way that you can gain knowledge is through your sober, waking, rational mind. Of course, that's a big gateway to knowledge and information and knowing. But there's things which are not rationally understandable, like the quantum world. And the problem is that this idea of idealism seems to be something which is hard to grasp rationally. I mean, they're very clever idealist philosophers, contemporary ones, who try really hard to put into words what this means, that behind the things that exist, there's this immaterial field of consciousness which is universal and has whatever attributes, and somehow these centers of awareness pop out of it, and this structured universe with laws. But again, this is very technical and very hard to read.
But isn't that true? Meaning, I wake up and I open my eyes and I see the things I see and I have the thoughts that I have. And I know that I'm going to podcast with you, so I have to put my makeup on and I do my hair. And a friend of mine's moving out of town, so I talk to her on the phone and I come over here and I lift your book to do exercises for my tennis elbow. And we sit down and there are some satellites, that like, I don't know. I really don't even know how I'm talking to you right now, but I trust that there is a matrix, right? That is allowing information to reach you where you are. We're having a conversation. I'm aware of sensation in my body. I'm aware of smells in the room. I can feel that I'm experiencing reality. So what part of that is not true? Meaning, if I want to, I can tap into God, right? Like, okay, when I wake up, like, thank you, God, for returning my soul to me. I had a rough time at night, but we're here. I can tap into that. And if I had certain skills, I could say, what's Jonathan feeling? Even though he's not in the room, right? I can close my eyes. I can do a meditation. What part of that, like, if I'm a brain in a vat, are you also a brain in a vat and you're having your own experience of how we got here? We have a shared collective consciousness. Like, what do I need to understand about it so that I don't ask to be put in a mental hospital because I can't believe we're spinning on a globe?
Actually, I mean, that's just on a tangent. I mean, I think we all should wake up in the morning and just look out of the window and just go like, this is insane. This universe we're inhabiting, the complexity, the intelligence, this is amazing. And yeah, we wake up and it's like, yeah, my job, too late to work, whatever. So my point is that it's really hard to understand idealism rationally. You can try, but you have to put in a lot of effort, and it's kind of annoying because you have to read philosophical texts which are written in an annoying way, not accessible to lay people. But then it turns out that there is this experiential knowledge where you can have experiences of things which you cannot really grasp or contextualize with the things you've experienced or known.
Like what? Can you give us an example?
Metaphysics, by definition, is you can't prove it or disprove it. You can just say it's all consciousness, or nothing is consciousness, or whatever, and no one can prove it. But this is where I believe idealism has more weight to it, because if you look at non-Western societies for many millennia, or even longer, they seem to have been making experiences of what this means to live in a universe which is based in consciousness. So we have the shamans who 30 to 50,000 years ago started to pop up around the globe with this kind of universal way of organizing their societies, where it was very clear that reality has two aspects, the physical and the non-physical, so the spirit world. And for the shaman, the job is to modulate their consciousness through trance or entheogens, so psychedelic substances, to enter these otherworldly realms. And then we have the mystics who talk about these spontaneous epiphanies where they experience, for them, of course, it's in the context of some god, but still it's about this intelligence which is behind the things which you can commune with. And then we have the meditators who also claim that if you just work with your consciousness long enough, you can have these experiences of like non-duality, Advaita in the Vedas, where suddenly you cease to be this individual and your personality fragments and you start to sort of unify with all there is. And then, of course, now with the renaissance of psychedelics, we have the psychonauts who very reliably, depending on what substance, tell you about experiences which just transcend anything you can ever imagine. But these things can be understood at an experiential level. And again, for psychonauts, there's studies showing that people who take psychedelics, they're open to believing that idealism is the correct metaphysics. It correlates with their well-being. It makes them happier.